Hello everyone and welcome to another Coffee with Carl. This is Carl Zoellner, your host and attorney with Anderson Business Advisors. Continuing our land trust series here, I want to talk a little bit about transfer taxes and how land trust could be a valuable tool in certain states that may have transfer taxes. So one thing we have to understand is that there's different states all have different rules on what's acceptable, what's not acceptable as far as what is taxable and what is not. Some states make any transfer of real estate a taxable event, whether it's from you to your LLC. Some states do not, meaning you can transfer property without any transfer tax. What we need to take away from this Coffee with Carl or this episode is that land trust will generally prevent transfer taxes from being assessed because I mentioned in I think most or not, if not all land trust videos, is they are grantor trusts where the beneficiary is the same as the grantor, and most states have an exemption for that type of transfer. Meaning, if I live in a state where they would require me to pay transfer tax between a transfer from my individual name to, say, my LLC, by putting that property first into a land trust, that can help, or not help, but it could completely avoid having to pay that transfer tax if that state has an exemption for it. This is going to be very detail specific, meaning we need to, or if you choose to use somebody else, needs to understand the different laws between state to state to understand what type of land trust you need. I'm also going to do a video on a few of the most common states where we use land trusts, as well as some of the reasons why, or some of the little bit of kind of nuance to the differences in how we need to do them, and most of that's going to be focused around say California or Florida or even Pennsylvania, that has some kind of odd laws as far as what happens when you transfer a property that you own from your name into a different title holding vehicle, whether that be most commonly is going to be an LLC within our asset protection structures. But land trusts, as a summary, do prevent transfer taxes in most states. The idea being is that there's a interest in protecting real estate, number one. Number two is that a grantor trust to a tax authority looks a lot like a living trust, and we don't want to penalize people for doing some estate planning or putting assets into a trust. So normally there is some exemption for that in most state laws. Now there is states, of course, that don't assess a transfer tax at all, meaning say Texas is one of them. There is no transfer tax at all, but there is some additional nuance there. And when we put property into a land trust, you do have to include, or you would want to include, especially if say it was your homestead, you include some special language in certain counties that require it, and normally it's just something and I have a video on this as well, but normally you have to include some special language. So land trusts are applicable in all 50 states. You can use them in any state. There is some nuance though when you're setting them up and how to set them up to make sure that you're not stepping on any issues. And also they'll pass muster for underwriting from title companies, as there are some states that try, or you'll find lazy underwriters that will claim them to be dry or passive trusts. Some places will draft them that way, where it functions that way. We, however, do not. We draft them so that each party to a land trust, meaning grantor, trustee, beneficiary, has specific duties and responsibilities, and there's some differentiation between the two, even though technically all three could be served by the same position. The difference being that there are some different responsibilities given those types of positions. So land trust is a great tool for helping avoid transfer tax or being exempt from the transfer tax where you maybe originally would not have been. So this is another way to use them, and another good tool to have in your tool belt. May not be appropriate for every single deal, but you do have the ability to use them, especially as more people are investing more 50 statewide versus simply investing in the state they live in. The internet has made things a very small world, a very large world, and so now we can invest all over the place with relative ease. So Till next time, this is Coffee with Carl, and I'm Carl Zoellner with Anderson Advisors. Like, as always, please take advantage of all of our free content. If you'd like a free consult, just give us a shout. Thanks.